We will now move on to the speech that was meant to be delivered by His Excellency Drago Štambuk. President Harris is going to read it out.
This is a shortened version of what Drago Štambuk wrote. Drago, as you will all know, was the diplomatic representative of Croatia to the United Kingdom between 1991 and 1994. And this is what he writes. From November 1983, I was in London working as the Welcome Fellow at the Royal Free Hospital Hepatology Department. After Tito's death in 1980, Yugoslavia had started unraveling and falling into chaos, furthered by Serbian internal aggression in the quest to create a greater Serbia. When I received the memorandum of the Serbian Academy of Sciences and Arts, 1986, it was clear to me that Serbia's lasting ambitions to be the ruling nation in Yugoslavia were embedded in this document. The concept of domination of leading Serbian intellectuals and their plan for the centuries-old creation of Greater Serbia was taken up by their leader, Slobodan Milošević, in 1987. For me, in London, everything was immediately clear. I knew Croats should prepare for a defensive war. I translated the memorandum into English, and one fateful morning I dialed information and asked for the number of the Foreign Office and was put through to Alan Charlton from the Yugoslav desk. I told him who I was and my concerns about the future of Yugoslavia, and told him that I had a document spelling out the future of the country and expressing my wish to hand it to him. We agreed to meet at the Red Lion pub in Whitehall around noon. It was the spring of 1988. I told him, amid the noise of the busy pub, that the document I was handing him was a blueprint for the creation of Greater Serbia, and that it would cause a bloody war in former Yugoslavia, since no one but the Serbs would accept it. Although at the time the Serbs said that the memorandum didn't even exist, it has nowadays more than a few editions. I told Charlton that, being a medical doctor and in favour of preventive medicine, I would like the British government to position itself preventatively against a Yugoslav bloody war due to the looming threat of Serbian internal aggression. He didn't comment much, took the document, and the rest, as they say, is history. Well, the moment I handed the SANU, S-A-N-U, Serbian Academy of Arts and Sciences, memorandum to British officials was in fact my political initiation on the path to explaining the causes of Serbian aggression and presenting, on my own initiative, the Croatian defensive stand against advancing internal Yugoslav turmoil. I started looking for allies in Great Britain and logically thought Mrs. Thatcher was a fine and clever leader, though of course she was no longer Prime Minister, who would understand what was at stake in Yugoslavia's unravelling. I started writing letters to the Iron Lady's office, and Robin Harris, her advisor, would read them and inform her about developments in Yugoslavia. First, I met Robin a few times in London, once in his humble flat. Wasn't that humble, actually. Then in Westminster Cathedral at Mass, and told him during these meetings what I knew and what were my predictions regarding Yugoslavia's future. The first time I met Mrs. Thatcher was at a promotion of the bronze statue Liberty made by the Croatian artist Ivan Klapeš in 1991, commissioned by Aims of Industry for the Margaret Thatcher Award. I told her about the Serbian war and realized that I'd found a sympathetic ear and somebody who immediately knew what it was all about. I remember also meeting Mrs. Thatcher and Michael Foot at some Croatian events in central London, and I had the feeling that standing between them and having their support was essential for my country. I felt safe because the right and left-leaning politicians supported us. I organised many events in London and elsewhere in the UK to raise awareness of the Serbian threat. I gave media interviews, wrote quite a few published letters to the Times, had meetings with many MPs and foreign diplomats, journalists and historians, Norman Stone, Mark Armand, Noel Malcolm, Brendan Sims, Marcus Tanner, and many other public, cultural and scientific figures, Doris Lessing, Blake Morrison, Andrew Motion, Margaret Drabble, Salman Rushdie, Angela Carter, Bernice Rubens, Kazuo Ishiguro, Sir Peter Medawa, Karl Popper, and Paul Johnson. I participated in important official visits, bringing Croatian politicians to Mrs. Thatcher in London, among them the visit of the newly elected President Franjo Tuđman, assisted by Minister of Foreign Affairs Davorin Rudolph in May 1991, when I helped to organise meetings with Mrs. Thatcher, also with Edward Heath, Michael Foot and the media. After the President's visit ended, there was a farewell party at the Savoy Hotel, and Tuđman there told me, "You've done an excellent job for Croatia. I would like you to be our official representative in London." I said, "I'm too busy with my medical work. I'll do everything I can for Croatia privately on my own." But the President was persistent, called me several times from Croatia, so that in the end I said, "I will do this job until Croatia is safe." So I was nominated in the United Kingdom plenipotentiary representative of the Republic of Croatia and the head of the Office of the Republic of Croatia by the Croatian government on the 17th of May 1991. I also organised the visit to Mrs. Thatcher by Zvonimir Šeparović, then Minister of Foreign Affairs of Croatia, who was heavily lobbying for Croatia's international recognition. He visited her with his wife Branka, a TV reporter, and got full support for Croatia from Mrs. Thatcher. An event I will never forget was a meeting with Margaret Thatcher on my birthday, 20th September 1991, when the citizens of Belgrade saw their tanks off to Vukovar, putting flowers in the tanks' guns. I spent the whole day in Mrs. Thatcher's office watching how she devoted her time passionately fighting for Croatian interests. Right there before me, asking me to be discreet about it, she telephoned world leaders explaining the situation and asking for support for the Croatian people who, she said, I quote, were under terrible Greater Serbian and communist aggression. At her request, I invited Edward Cowan, a former British military attaché in Belgrade, to clarify the military situation in eastern Slavonia. We opened the map and the explanations began. She wondered if Slavonia was not an independent republic. I pointed out that Slavonia is not Slovenia and that she was confusing the names. At one point, when the former attaché, forgetting the fact that I was present, he was too impressed by the great politician, said, I quote, "The nationalists from both sides," that is, equating those who were aggressors and those who were defending their lives. Mrs. Thatcher noticed how displeased I was by Cowan's statement. She looked carefully at him, then at me, and at him again, clenched her fist and hit her chest several times, asking, "What's wrong with being a nationalist? I'm a British nationalist. Is there anything wrong with it?" Instantly, the attaché cringed and squirmed, and when he finally left, she turned to me with a mischievous look in her eyes and said, "Haven't we taught him a lesson?" The next day we met at Mrs. Thatcher's home with her two advisors, while her husband Dennis served as sherry. We wrote a press release and sent it to the media with a strong message about the need to stop Greater Serbian aggression by force. After we'd sent the facts, Mrs. Thatcher had to leave for the United States. Before she left the study, John Whittingdale, now Sir John Whittingdale MP, that time a political secretary, said to her, "Mrs. Thatcher, the British government will crucify you for what you're doing." Turning towards us at the exit and looking extremely beautiful and determined at that moment, she said, "If it's a matter of crucifying me or Croatia, then it's better to crucify me than Croatia." It was one of the strongest statements of support to my homeland by somebody of such stature that I ever experienced during my activities before and after becoming Croatian representative to the United Kingdom. I spoke with Lady Thatcher on the 6th of December 1991 when Dubrovnik was under Serbian artillery cannonade. I was called from suffering Dubrovnik early in the morning by Mišo Mihočević asking for help. Mrs. Thatcher promised me to intervene with the UK government. She also told me that shooting at the beauty of Dubrovnik was not wise and that the Croats would get public opinion on their side. Mrs. Thatcher was later ready to visit Croatia, but at the time when the war started in Bosnia and Herzegovina, she was unhappy about Croats and Muslims fighting one another. She told me this on the phone, saying, "You are both on the receiving end of Serbian aggression, you must stand together." She cancelled her trip to Croatia that I was organising, which saddened me a lot. When the Serbs did unspeakable crimes in eastern Bosnia, I tried to speak on the phone to Lady Thatcher, but because it was the weekend, I couldn't get her. On Sunday evening, I finally got Dennis on the phone, and he told his wife, "Margaret, here is your Croatian doctor." I told Mrs. Thatcher what the Serbs were doing to Muslims, and she responded, "Aren't they animals?" I said, "You know that, I know that too, but something must be done against their crimes." She answered, "Don't you worry, I'll do it tomorrow." Next morning, she invited the media and said the Serbs should be bombed. It was not in line with British government's policy, and the media started writing a lot of comments. The Croatian Foreign Minister, Dr. Mate Granić's visit to Mrs. Thatcher in London, I organised in 1993. Croatia got her full support with wise recommendations in the struggle for the survival of the Croat people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I said goodbye to Lady Thatcher at the end of 1994 at her office before going to serve as Croatian ambassador to India, thanking her for everything. In India, during her visit, and at the same time as Operation Storm, on 5th of August 1995, I was invited by her to the British mission in Delhi and seated next to the British ambassador after the Operation Storm was over, and she was very pleased with developments. She told me what a beautiful sight it was seeing the Serbs leaving. But she could not understand why Croat forces stopped in front of Banja Luka. She said, "You should have gone up the corridor and finished the job." That was her opinion. Lady Thatcher will stay etched in the Croatian national and political memory as a great principled friend of our country and all those who had to suffer from undeserved Serbian aggression. Mrs. Thatcher was a crystal clear voice of reason and support in those times of general political muddle in the battle for survival and healthy growth of our beloved and beautiful country. Croats, therefore, should be eternally grateful to Mrs. Thatcher, the towering political figure of our times, and never forget her important support and help. She was our staunch and honest friend, and we should keep her in our eternal and cherished national Croatian memory.